How's it going? I hope you all are having a great Earth Day. My name is Morgan, president of Waste Free Society.
All right, so Morgan, if you want to just give them a quick, you're Morgan, you're from the Waste Free Society. How did you get your organization started? How long have you guys been around?
Yeah, so we were established on June 9th of 2023 officially, but before that, I saw a real need for composting, and I worked at a charter school. We had a garden, we had chickens, but we weren't composting the food waste, and so I saw so much of it get thrown away. And so that kind of got me thinking, like, hey, what can we do about this? And we started sorting the food waste from the single-use plastic, from the recyclable plastic, and we started feeding the compost to the chickens. I also started researching different composting methods. So worm farming. So I got a little worm kit for the classroom, and we started to study that. I started looking at like the cycle of things. I'm like, okay, why do we throw everything into the landfill? And I started to see so much opportunity for upcycling and then also for composting, and realized the importance of it. And so as a Title I coordinator, I would host monthly parent nights. So one of them was the design fair. And so it was a STEAM challenge where I challenged kids to research the paper cycle and the plastic cycle. And then they had to upcycle projects made out of one or both of these materials. And the stuff they came up with was incredible. And so we turned the whole school into an art gallery, and I got 2 food trucks on board to start composting all of their packaging and their food waste. And we composted it into the garden for that event, which was great. But then I realized we don't have a large enough scale composting operation to do this with all of the school's food waste. The chickens could eat some things, the worms could eat other things, but we had to really think of some solutions there.
What do you feel about composting, is why it's like such a priority for you, and how could we motivate other people to either compost at home or find other organizations like yours to compost?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. So composting is, to me, it's a more viable solution. We can't recycle our way out of this. Anything that we upcycle something into, people were making leggings out of recycled or upcycled plastic water bottles, which initially I was like, oh, that's a great idea. And then I started to research. I'm like, wait a minute, that still breaks down into a microplastic that still creates contact on our skin with these materials. I don't want plastic to perpetuate. I want it to stop. So recycling is not the answer. Most things don't get recycled. So when I say waste free, it's like moving toward a society where we can compost everything, and what cannot be composted, it can be recycled, but it's not excessive overconsumption causing the problem. In our current reality, going completely waste free is not 100% feasible for the vast majority of the populace. But we can get pretty darn close if we start composting and really being innovative with what our personal impact is.
My mom manages a medical practice, and I was able to get them to reduce the amount of plastic bags that their office uses by reducing the amount of trash cans that they have at the office. Maybe I didn't change Coca-Cola, right? I didn't get less plastic from Coca-Cola, but changing that one office's way of how they manage their waste and their trash reduced over, I think it was 50 bags a day times 5 days a week that the office is open. That's a substantial amount of plastic bag reduction. If you can get one person to change their ways, and that person's able to get other people to change their ways, that's how we can kind of get away from these organizations that are pushing all the overconsumption and trying to keep us doing the easy thing, like the throwaway forks and throwaway plates, by starting at home.
That's amazing, Carl. I'm really, really proud of you for doing that too. And thank you. I actually have an infographic here. You can actually find this on our Instagram, and we will put it on our website too. It's in our annual report. You can find that at www.wastefreesociety.org. But this is all about the food waste crisis. And these are not even the most up-to-date statistics, but 40% of food produced in the US is wasted. Each year, Americans alone throw away approximately 80 billion pounds of food. And this translates to 20% of US methane emissions in our landfills. So I get the argument that oh, like it's the corporation's problem and we're just the victims. Well, I think we both play a part, and also we vote with our dollar, which is another topic. We are also looking at topsoil erosion and degradation. An estimated 30% of the world's arable land is already degraded. Our topsoil is eroding 10 times faster than it's being formed. Essential nutrients for crops are lost, leading to reduced agricultural productivity. So hello, like whenever we're putting 40% of our food in the landfill or food waste in the landfill, those nutrients are not going back into the soil to go into our plants and to go into our livestock and us ultimately. I mean, we're at the end of the food chain, and yet we keep perpetuating this problem.
Yeah, I think it's something I've discussed with the chat as well, is this thing called like circular manufacturing, circular waste, right? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, right now, all of the manufacturers, all of the companies, the onus of the end of life cycle of an item is on the customer, but customers don't always know what to do with stuff. Like, exactly. You get so many things, and your shoes fell apart, but your Converse is made out of canvas and rubber, and the canvas and the rubber can't get recycled in the same way, or can they even get, like, it's very confusing, it's very overwhelming, and it's so easy to get, like, kind of what we call doom pilled, where you just kind of spiral in the stress, right? So that's why I think what's so important, not everybody can know everything. So I work in the apparel industry, so I'm sure I know much more about textiles, for example, and textile waste than like you might. Whereas composting, you're going to know more than I do. So we try to talk about how we can kind of uplift each other in these ways by sharing this information and teaching each other and doing it as a community, because we can't do everything on our own, right? One of the things that I like to foster with these like discussions and these interviews is like, what can someone do today, right now, at home? And then what can they do tomorrow? Maybe they don't live in Arizona and they can't volunteer with you, but what can they do from Canada, for example?
Okay, I've got a list. Are you ready?
Yeah, take notes, guys.
You can do, and the small impacts matter, like, or small changes matter so much, you guys. If you want to go big, find a local composting operation near you and start dropping off your food waste to them, or connect them with local businesses that maybe want to start composting. You can ask your local restaurants and coffee shops where the food waste goes. One of our partners, Growers Best Organics and Worm Farm, they compost all the food waste from a major bulk store, which I cannot name, but you know, ask them like, what happens to your food waste? And if they throw it away, connect them with these people. Okay, that's like the bigger, you know, do this tomorrow. You can start by growing a garden. Look up your agricultural zone, look up the planting schedule, and just try. You're going to fail a lot too, and you're going to learn a lot. So growing a garden, it's like, I've heard it said, it's like printing your own money. Learn to compost yourself if you want to do that.
Part of why composting is important is since everything is going to the landfills, the nutrients from the decaying plants, like the leftover banana peels or whatever food products that you're throwing away in the old days, right? Like in the past, and we just like ate and tossed stuff, right? When we like lived in the jungle or whatever. I'm not a sociologist, but those things would decay and they would become a part of the nature, and nature would reabsorb those nutrients. But because everything's going to the landfill, even banana peels are not decaying at the rate that they should be. So that's why our landfills are like exorbitantly growing, the emissions are exorbitantly growing, and we're running out of land for all of these things. The goal with composting is getting those nutrients back into the earth and out of the landfills, which would mean less land being used for landfill, but also redistributing the nutrients back into our topsoil so that our vegetation and our farming can pick back up and be healthy again.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was very well explained. That's exactly it. And it creates that closed loop system, right? It goes back to the soil, back to the food, back to us. However, if we put it in the landfill, and it gets mixed up like a soup. I've heard this described as a soup. If you put poison on one side of the soup, does the poison stay on that side? No, it's going to infiltrate the whole soup. Like, you throw it in the landfill and we can't extract this to compost it again. So I actually tell people, if you're going to throw anything in the landfill, if it's compostable or plastic, put the plastic in the landfill instead. Like, I see a lot of companies starting to think, oh yeah, we need to make compostable stuff or have compostable packaging, but then people don't know what to do with it. So that gets thrown in the landfill where it can't be extracted from the batteries and the, you know, the chemicals and stuff. Other things you can do at home too is think about repairing stuff instead of just getting rid of it. You could even host a repair bar and gather people with those skills to repair electronics or clothing. You're going to go through a drive-through, decline the plastic. Just tell them I like to tell them before I get to the window, like, hey, no plastic utensils. I don't need sauce or whatever. Just waste-free, like as waste-free as possible.
The earth is trying to repair itself. The earth is trying to heal, but it is unable to heal at the rate that it needs to heal to combat our destructiveness. The earth has always had cycles of warmth and cold. That's normal. The ice age and all those things had nothing to do with us. That being said, the rate that this is happening at is at a rate that we cannot survive and keep up with for ourselves, and that is why we've had such mass extinction in our animal species. We've lost about 73% of our global wildlife and about 35% of our global insect species. These are incredible numbers to be losing globally. And that's because the earth just cannot keep up with the amount of consumption that we've consumed. 86% of textiles is waste. There's 3 generations, I think, of clothing that exists more than people. There's not enough people for all that clothes, and we're still making more every single day. So part of what we need to do is re-educate ourselves and our relationship with products, consumption, the goods in our life. Part of that is not idolizing newness as much as we do these days, and thrifting our clothes and making sure that we're repairing things. People used to know how to fix their own socks, fix their own tights. It wasn't just like, I'm sure it had to do partly with like wars and access to material goods, but it wasn't just that. These things cost money. If you are purchasing a shirt on Shein for $5, whoever made that shirt did not get enough money to eat or feed their children. So it's all affecting each other in a way that most of us don't know, because we don't know all the steps it takes to get these items to the store.
And that's something too, is that in order to truly become a waste-free society, the idea of currency has to shift from this like currency-based system or exchange primarily to like the energetic exchange, and looping or going back to, okay, where does this originate from? Is it being shipped from halfway around the world? And how much carbon footprint is that? How are the workers treated who made this product? Were they in poor working conditions, or were they given fair wages or not? And thinking of like organic versus inorganic too. With organic produce, if you can purchase it, the energetic footprint you're leaving is to maintain species instead of deplete the earth and give them, a chance to survive. Whereas if we're buying inorganic produce, I totally get it. You got to do what you can do. I get that. And I come from a very privileged place to be able to say, like, this is what I'm able to do. But I look at that energetic footprint, not just the currency now. And so I'm actually consuming a lot less. And I've flipped into more of a production mindset. Like, what can I produce? That's not just stuff. I'm a jewelry designer, and I've actually been shifting that practice. I haven't made new jewelry in a long time because I used to make resin jewelry. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want to contribute to this problem. So I've started using the base of, upcycled materials now instead. But it's like shifting from that consumption mindset to that production mindset of what good can I give back to the earth instead of what can I just take from it. And part of why I would argue that we're in this situation is, all of our time is taken up like to get that currency that we need to survive. And I'm not saying it doesn't have a time or a place, but I think we really need to consider what our energetic footprint is. I know corporations don't like that because they want to make money. And think about this, if everybody grew just one crop. I grow tomatoes, my neighbor grows cilantro, and then my other neighbor grows tomatoes, and then we just share. We've got salsa, right? Like, if everybody just grew one crop, then we would have a self-sustaining food system. And that community is so important too, not just for that, but with Waste-Free Society, every second Saturday, we facilitate that community intentionally at our Waste-Free Market, because art, music, it's all been the voice of society. It helps to bridge that gap between ideas and action, and really thinking about something and caring about it, right? So we really intentionally foster this community where there's a compost or a food waste drop off site. People come, they drop off food waste, they freeze it so it doesn't smell, and we give them free compost in exchange through our partners at Growers Best Organics and Worm Farm. And then there's live music. There's an open mic. People can share poetry, play music. Live artists are there sometimes. We have waste conscious vendors, and we have workshops at the Waste Free Academy so that people can learn how to garden. They can apply these skills that are going to help them immediately and help the community. But that having that point of connection is so important.
When I spoke with Water Drop LA, which is a grassroots organization, they deliver fresh water to the homeless every single Sunday in Los Angeles. They've been doing it for the last 3 years. It's actually a really incredible system that they've created, something our own government can't seem to figure out. Their goal is eventually to not exist. Their goal is that eventually we're going to have the water management systems in place that we need to sustain our society, right? And they won't have to do these drop-offs. Do you see a world where waste-free society maybe isn't existing because it has become so mixed into our communities that that's just how we live our lives now?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've said from the beginning that I don't want to do this. I actually really don't. It's just a calling that I've had on my life that I had to act on because I didn't see enough being done. So I would love it if everything was waste-free and we didn't have to exist anymore. But right now we're not there. So yeah, but I have a dream that one day we will mine the last bit of microplastic from this planet, and our people will be happy. It's either that or we cease to exist. So I mean, I really hope that we can figure out how to be better to
which, not to scare you guys, but it's true. If we do not figure out this plastic situation, we are in trouble, okay? Another question that I had, so are there any bills or government proposals? I know that Alex has applied for grants. Is there anything in the works like that? Are there any representatives that you're in touch with? Anyone who's like a mayor or city councilor or someone who can kind of help you facilitate change on like a more massive level, not just the individual level?
That's a great question. And that's something I'm still learning about, is like who to reach out to and how to change that legislature and reach out to our representatives. We are partnering with Local First Arizona, who's an amazing organization that helps nonprofits and businesses to fuel the local economy. So they're a great resource. So our restaurant partner, Early Bird Vegan, shout out to Chef Crystal. She's amazing. She's also in touch with, I believe, the mayor of Tempe. And so I believe, don't quote me, but she had told me recently that the city was looking at the program at Early Bird Vegan to see how they're thinking about maybe composting in Tempe. So yeah, we're looking to partner with more restaurants as well. But if you guys, I don't know if you've heard of Climate Action Now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not as active in there as I used to be, but that's also a great organization that cares a lot about environmental causes, and you can see which ones align with you and which maybe don't. They have templates ready to go that you just copy and paste it to your email. They give you the email of the local politician to reach out to, and you just email it to them. So I've also sent emails through that platform as well.
What would you say are like the biggest roadblocks you're facing right now with the organization?
I'm so glad you asked. I would say for me, it's time. And then for the organizations, and for us, it's the funding, which we're so grateful, guys. The funding that you're giving us is allowing us to be able to pay Growers Best Organics and Worm Farm to start compost pickups at more restaurants.
Which, just so you know, we've just hit 2,209.
Oh,
I'm gonna cry. I can't believe, I was so like, I told Alex, I was like, Alex, I don't know, we're gonna get maybe $400. Like, I'm a nobody on the internet. Like, this community has really truly rallied. Like, the amount of support that we've gotten, and just because we asked the question, like, sometimes I tell people all the time, I'm like, you guys just send a DM, like, just talk to each other, like, look at what we're able to do together. Like, some people have donated $4 adds up to $2,209. Without those $4, we wouldn't be here. Like, everybody who's here, who's learning, who's engaging, who's asking questions, and who's donating, like, all of this is just going to lead to more change.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much. That I can't even tell you how grateful I am. Yeah, and that's going to allow us to fund these compost pickups and fund the waste-free certification program for other restaurants, which Early Bird Vegan is our pilot restaurant right now. And so we are switching over that composting program a little bit, but like we're switching things up and learning as we go. But this is going to really help us to get that program out to more people, because the biggest factor for a lot of restaurants is the dumpster fee.
Yeah.
Listen to this. For, oh my gosh, I don't want to misquote this. It's $30 per ton, I think, for trash pickup. But it's cheaper for them to do pay for a dumpster fee than it is to pay our composting service, which I believe is a very fair rate. But, they're going to go with the $30 per ton rate. Of course, who wouldn't? That's where the equity comes into play. Our goal is to make composting equitable as well. It shouldn't be something that we have to have a program for. Yeah, of course, the funding is a big one. And then time. I'm a full-time teacher, and then I also teach music lessons part-time and run the nonprofit. So the time commitment is something that definitely is a factor. But once we get those grants and that funding, we can, I can kind of phase out certain aspects of my life to align more with doing this full time. But I do love being a teacher too. So that's always a challenge. And also, like, the funding, it's going to go also towards fueling that local economy, because we want to be able to pay our workshop facilitators, to pay our live artists to paint and, come to the event as well. And, we believe that whenever we can pay people those fair wages that they deserve, that it's just going to grow that community even further and create this space where more people can come together and participate in this community. And maybe somebody comes for the music, maybe somebody comes for the art or the vegan food or some other aspect of the event. But we strongly believe in being able to pay our local artists, musicians, workshop facilitators. Like, we want to be able to fund them too.
Yeah.
We also need to be able to pay members of our team, as like our marketing director. She is doing this as a volunteer. We're all volunteers. The goal is not to pay us, it's to pay, to
keep the program running and to be able to expand
program
it.
Going. Yeah, and pay people to pick up the compost, because they deserve a living wage too. So if we can create this economy where people are making a living wage based off of sustainable practices, then that's really going to create food security, grow our community, and just create a better place for all of us to coexist.
I think it would be so interesting if we all put pressure on our cities, on our council members, and told them how much we want this. Because imagine if our city was to redirect one waste truck into a compost truck, partner with Waste Free Society and with the Waste Free Society hub in every area. And then that would give you your route. We wouldn't need to do all this privatization, because it would be in a partnership with our city. And we would have people like Morgan, people who are knowledgeable in this, monitoring it, making sure things get to where they go. But the only way we can get any of this change is if we show people in charge what our demands are. A few years ago, Huntington Park they have a black bin, a blue bin, and a green bin, and their green bin is for plant waste. They turned that into a compost. My friend kept trying to explain to her parents. She was asking me to explain to her parents. Her parents were like, "It's a lie. It's not true." And I'm like, "There's a letter from the city." But then the instructions are confusing, because you don't put your meat bones, but you can put your eggshells, and they don't understand, and they're older. And so a lot of it is an education thing, and having access to these programs, having access to this knowledge, and being able to bring it to community members who maybe don't speak English, or maybe they're just old and confused, or maybe they don't handle change well, and they don't want to put food in their green bin because their green bin is for trees. Sometimes it's having access to these programs to be able to get that education out. And Briar Guy says, is there something special you need to do to your compost pile to get it going? Or can you just start throwing your compostable trash in a pile? I bought a compost tumbler about a year ago, and it feels like the thing a year later has not broken down anything or looks like anything has composted that I've seen.
You want to put 50% brown, which is your carbon-rich materials like shredded. Like if you have a wood chipper, that's great if you can break it up into smaller pieces. And then 50% green, which are your nitrogen-rich materials. That's like your fresh food waste. And I always say, if you're doing backyard composting, you want to just compost fruit and veggie scraps. No meat, no dairy, no oil. That's going to attract rodents, and it's going to give you like a slimy consistency. So you can drop those off at an industrial composting facility. But you also want to maintain a proper like moisture level in the composting bin. With vermicomposting, so with worm composting, that's a little bit different. But in the tumbler, I think it's still like, and I'm still learning too, but like a wrung out sponge type of consistency. You don't want too much water. You don't want to create like mold. I mean, a little bit of mold in the compost is, as you're turning it, like it might look bad, but it's actually going to be probably beneficial. Don't quote me on that, but
you don't want to be growing a mold society.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So make sure it has a little bit of moisture in the composting tumbler as well.
Blue Room seems to be very interested in your worms, and Fabuli mentioned that she's seen worm kits where they put coffee grounds and the worms kind of dance. So I don't know if you've noticed that, but do you guys sell worm kits, or do you teach how to do the worm kits, or is that just a thing you did with your students, or what's going on with the worms? Everybody wants to know about the worms.
Yes, I can actually show you my worm kit from Growers Best Organics and Worm Farm really quick. Let me get it.
All right, Timo, we're getting you the worms.
Go to their website, Growers Best Organics. This is my worm kit from them. It comes with this base that has, there's holes in the top lid, and then there's holes on the base of the first box, and then it's nestled inside of this box, and it has the information on here of like the temperature that they like. It's actually this sticker on the top. So it tells you like 65 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit is what the red wiggler likes, and then 59 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit is what the nightcrawler likes. And
how many species do you have, Morgan? Do you have both?
Just two. Yeah, just two.
I did not realize the worms were going to be so popular. Guys, if you get worms, be nice to your worms, okay? I don't know what their sentience level is. Maybe it's not the same as a dog, but don't be mean to your worms, okay?
So you can see they're eating that food waste. You also don't want to put too much food waste in there. This might be more than what they should eat, but I actually just had this in my classroom, so we've been feeding the worms. And you also want to cover it with like, have this plastic. The new kits come with turf that's cut out exactly to the right size, so you can cover it with that to keep flies out. And I've also tried this, and it works for me. If you use diatomaceous earth and you sprinkle it over the top, it's not going to hurt the worms, but it is going to keep the flies away. And you also want to make sure your worms have a little bit of grit. So one thing I love about these worm kits is that they come with like a volcanic grit. They come with also some worm chow and other trace minerals for the soil, because worms have gizzards like chickens do. They need little rock particles to be able to break up the food. And so that's going to maximize the output of their composting ability.
Someone said, okay, they have a box of growing medication bottles that I cannot for the life of me find a place to recycle or reuse. I thought Walgreens took them, but they dispose of old meds and not the bottles. I will say I've been having the same problem too, especially with my asthma inhaler. CVS has these little boxes, but the pharmacist made it seem as if the boxes don't get picked up or people don't use them. So do you have suggestions off the top of your head, or do you have a resource we could look at for people who, unfortunately, maybe you do need an inhaler every month, and what are you supposed to do? You gotta breathe.
That's a great question, and that's something I've been trying to find an answer to as well. So if anybody knows of a solution there, let me know. I know about those drop-off sites where the DEA will get the medication and that's no longer being used, but who knows what happens to the bottles they're in, the packaging. I know TerraCycle, I don't think they have a medical waste box, but you can order boxes from TerraCycle, or you can go not for medical waste, but like for single use, like plastic film.
Yeah, and I think
I
they take like
know,
pens, like hard to recycle plastics, but you're right. I don't think they have a
yeah,
medical one. So you know what?
yes,
Spilled bag of ice. That's actually something. Chat. We have homework, and our homework is to figure out what to do with our old medicine bottles and prescription bottles. So Bry mentioned he said he wasn't aware he needed to add water. For when it comes to composting, do you have any remote classes or any online resources that people have access to, or do you only have your in-person stuff right now available?
that's a great question. We do have a blog on our website. So at wastefreesociety.org, if you go to the Waste Free Academy or the Learn drop-down section, I believe there is a blog about composting on there. And if you go to our Instagram, you have to scroll back a while, but we do have some composting graphics.
Morgan, thank you so much. I think this has been really informative. I think it's a lot of information. If you guys are feeling overwhelmed, I totally understand. If you take away one thing from this conversation, just at least use less waste, use less plastic, say no to straws if you don't need them. This is not for people who are disabled. This is for those of us who are able to do it. Say no when you can. Bring your own Tupperware, bring your own forks and spoons. I leave one at the office that I wash and use at work, including my flask. Whatever you guys are able to do, all of these small changes will add up, and you need to be that little mosquito in everybody's ear, buzzing around the office, buzzing around your family, being like, hey, don't do this anymore. We're going to change. We can do it together.
So many people have such good intentions. I know you all want to make a positive impact for the environment. I know that even a lot of corporations want to. I'm not saying everybody, but most people want to do good, because at the end of the day, if we don't have a planet, they don't have a profit. We need to come together, and I think we all want to do good, but bridging that gap, it starts with knowing why it's important, which is something we seek to do through educating. And then it's letting people know, hey, here's how we can do this. And it's also coming together as a community. So those are 3 pillars that we really stand by. It's knowing the why, the how, and then having that community to really bounce ideas off of each other and innovate together. So thank you guys so much. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, because none of us are experts. I didn't come into this nonprofit organization with like a science degree or anything. It's all been research and figuring out solutions as we go. So if you want to innovate together, let's do that. Join our Instagram, or if you are on Facebook, our discussion group. And if you're here in person, come to our events.
Morgan, I swear to God, because I think it was Chuck, but I don't want to interrupt you, but we just hit the 2,500. I'm going to cry. Oh, we just hit the 2,500.
That's amazing.
You guys,
thank you so much.
I don't listen. I'm telling you, my goal was 500. We just hit 2,510. I feel super grateful that I found this community. I talk about this a lot. I'm so parasocial. I'm always telling everybody that I love them. I don't think you guys understand. Like, it's so lonely believing in something as much as I believe in protecting our environment and protecting our planet, and watching our animal species and our biodiversity die out, and feeling like, oh my gosh, like, how can I do this by myself? And knowing that there is a community of people who don't just want to learn, but they also want to support and even listen to the conversation, ask questions. Like, just being here and engaging, like, makes me feel like everything that I've done up until now has been worth it.
I don't have the right words, but I'm just so grateful. Like, thank you. And it is really lonely sometimes too, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like, so many times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, not enough is changing fast enough. But holding on to that hope of community and hope in general, that, yeah, things look really bleak, but there's always possibility that it can be better. But we can't just sit around and wait for it. We've got to come together and do what we can.
We got another update because everybody is insane, I think. We're at 2,620. So,
oh my gosh, thank you. We're going to put these funds to good use and get this program on the road.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. All right, everybody say bye, Morgan. Happy birthday. Bye, Morgan.
Good night.
All right, Morgan, thank you. Have a good night. Have safe travels. We'll see you later. Bye.